Darth Vader versus Sauron. Two of the most evil, most iconic villains in pop culture are going at it today, with one being a threat to all of Middle-earth, the other threatening a whole galaxy. Well, who's ultimately coming out on top here? Who's going to win this fight in the end? And is it even going to be close? Let's get into it. Starting out, let's take a little closer look at Darth Vader. And the first thing that we got to recognize is that if we truly wanted to use Vader in his prime, then we would use this version of Vader. Anakin Skywalker was the most powerful Jedi in over a millennium, and he had unprecedented power in the Force. Our Revenge of the Sith, he was more powerful than anyone on the Jedi Council, even Master Yoda. Even Darth Sidious had to concede that Anakin was potentially more powerful than him. And during the duel on Mustafar, this was Vader at arguably the height of his power. He's the chosen one. But then he was defeated by Obi-Wan, he caught on fire, had like half his body cut off by this point, and was put inside the cybernetic suit keeping him alive. And according to George Lucas, lost a lot of his power and potential in the process. Now that he's half man and half machine, he lost a lot of the ability in the Force because there just isn't as much human left. So where before he had the potential to be twice as powerful as the Emperor, now he's operating at maybe 80% of the Emperor's power, more on par with Darth Maul and Count Dooku. It also messed him up as a lightsaber fighter too. He lost and had to relearn a lot of the skill and ability that he had as Anakin, and definitely lost all that self-confidence that he had. Of course, there are other things to suggest that this isn't the case at all, and Darth Vader actually did get more powerful after putting on the suit, and that his prime was really around Return of the Jedi. Like, he lost his first fight against Obi-Wan Kenobi. First few fights, really. But by the time that New Hope rolls around, well, Vader was powerful enough to beat him. And it wasn't just the fact that Obi-Wan was older now and couldn't fight as well with a lightsaber. One, because Obi-Wan had killed Darth Maul while in this same state. But two, because they were also having a Force battle at the same time during this fight. We just couldn't see that playing out with our eyes. But old Ben was wearing out and losing the fight before the fight even began. Just by being around Vader's presence in the Force was enough to tire Obi-Wan out. He had been growing more and more powerful in the dark side of the Force, tapping into a whole new power stream than before. And he's actually come to believe that his injuries only made him stronger and increased his connection to the Force. His pain fed his hate, and his anger, his hate turned into strength, suggesting he's still becoming even more powerful as Vader. So definitely a debate there. But honestly, just because we'll have access to a lot more cool stuff, we're gonna say his prime is Return of the Jedi. Darth Vader has been consistently called one of the deadliest Sith in history, one of the most powerful entities in the galaxy, and someone with the potential to rival or even possibly overthrow the Emperor himself. And this kinda did come to fruition. He did kill the Emperor, even if the death didn't really stick. His Force power manifests itself in a lot of different ways, from telepathy to creating Force barriers or amping himself with Force rage, but his primary has to be telekinesis. He's able to tear apart AT-ATs, bring down trees the size of buildings, or even bring down huge buildings themselves. His raw power is absolutely insane. And he's not necessarily just a bull in a china shop either. Darth Vader has pretty substantial control over everything around him. He's even able to force choke someone from all the way across the galaxy. But it doesn't just stop there. Outside of his insane connection with the Force, Vader's also a tremendously gifted and deadly fighter. He's impossibly strong, and he can use this in a fight, easily overpowering other Jedi or lightsaber fighters. He's surprisingly fast. Even with his robotic armor, he can block pretty much all attacks coming his way, and it's even been said that he's faster than the Emperor himself. Then where Vader shines is his durability, which makes sense. He's already missing half of his body and replaced it with metal. Even before that, he was still pretty good at enduring pain. Vader can legit walk through blaster fire, walk through explosions. It almost doesn't even faze him for the most part. He was even able to take Palpatine's Force Lightning. This is an attack powerful enough to have Maul crying on the floor and begging for mercy. Maul, the guy who feeds off of pain to make him grow stronger in the Force, and survived literally being cut in half. Palpatine's lightning had him screaming out, but when Sidious hit Vader with enough lightning to make his skeleton show up through the armor, I don't even know how that one's possible, well, Vader just kept on pushing, determined to kill him. Then there's just straight his skill. He's the best duelist the Empire has, and fights with a unique and unpredictable style that actually takes bits and elements from all combat techniques. He got more and more skilled between A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back, and then between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, to the point where it was said he was unparalleled in terms of pure skill. He had no equal, putting him above the likes of Obi-Wan, Luke, and maybe even the Emperor himself. And then next up, there's Sauron, and he knows a thing or two about creating powerful magical objects, because he's the master and creator of the One Ring. He's a servant of Melkor, who's basically Satan in Lord of the Rings, and Sauron is his greatest and most powerful servant, which will be putting him on the same level as Glaurung, the father of dragons, and Gothmog, the lord of the Balrogs. At his prime, he was the most powerful being in Middle-earth. Even Gandalf, a great wizard on his own, couldn't compare to Sauron. But more importantly, Sauron is a Maya, immortal beings who were around before time itself and powerful servants of the Valar, with the Valar being the godlike beings who are responsible for helping create the universe, for adding into the Song of Anor, as they sang everything into existence. And it's even possible that Sauron himself contributed to this song. Definitely not in the same way that the Valar did, but still, somewhat helping to create the whole universe. Sauron could control and manipulate fire, with flames and heat radiating from his body. He can control the weather itself, sending darkness and storms out in front of his armies whenever they marched. He can control the mountains and the earth itself. Like, just his presence is enough to cause Mount Doom to erupt, and he caused massive storms and waves to destroy Numenor. He's a master manipulator, can break minds and bend wills to his own, even straight up possess others. All things that come in really handy if you're evil and want to rule the world. And all this is wrapped up in his One Ring. The ring was forged in the fires of Mount Doom, and Sauron actually put a lot of his own power into the ring. It basically amplifies his powers, allowing him to peer into the minds of the other ring bearers and control their thoughts. And it's even so pervasive that Sauron's mind domination powers is in the ring itself. That's why it's so hard to destroy the ring, because you're fighting against the ring itself and Sauron himself. Even people like Gandalf and Galadriel have to refuse the ring, because everyone would eventually break and succumb to Sauron, even the strongest of wills. He's also got the ability to not just dominate others' wills, but project his own. It's what allows him to control all his armies of orcs and trolls without ever even leaving his tower. So who wins here? Well, let's break it down. Now, Sauron is a very different character when you're comparing books to movies. Within the Lord of the Rings books and lore, well, the guy is basically straight up a god. A lower god, sure, but a god nonetheless. And Sauron is crazy powerful. He might have even helped to create the universe itself. At the very least, he directly served under the beings that created the universe. Problem is, this doesn't really translate or scale to doing amazing in fights or battles. Sauron's power has never been in strength of arms or hand-to-hand combat. That's not how power works in Tolkien's universe. The greatest power Sauron has is the ability to manipulate, lie, deceive, and control the wills of others. The ring is a tool of control, not a weapon for fist fighting. So having the ring doesn't make Sauron this incredible, unstoppable combatant. It makes him a tyrant of unrivaled wisdom and cunning, with the ability to dominate the minds of others. He manipulated the elves into creating the rings just so he could make the one to control them. He manipulated the men of Numenor into attacking Valinor, thus removing his greatest rivals for power. He manipulated Denethor, who was extremely strong-willed, to the point that he committed suicide out of despair. He played Saruman, a fellow Maya, like an instrument. And this isn't to say that Sauron isn't a skilled fighter. He is. It's not to say that he's not powerful and not physically intimidating. He is. It's just to say that Sauron at his core isn't a fighter. In fact, in the few times where he's been in fights, he's lost. Sauron is even defeated by an elf and a man, Gil-galad and Elendil. And even though they were impressive, powerful people, and they did die alongside Sauron, they're still just people. Sauron one time even lost to a dog. A big, tough dog, but still. So it's not entirely possible that in an actual fight, well, someone like Darth Vader can't potentially beat him. Even if Vader is immortal and Sauron is a god, that's not where Sauron's power lies. And Vader is so much more than a mortal when you factor in his powerful connection with the Force. However, even though Vader would probably be able to defeat Sauron's physical form, that's not actually killing Sauron. He's survived without his physical form multiple times before, and he's always come back. And here's the kicker. I can't think of a Star Wars character who would succumb to the temptation and corruption of the One Ring faster than Vader. Darth Vader is 100% putting on that ring. And unlike characters like Gandalf or Galadriel, well, Vader probably wouldn't even be tempted to not put it on. And as soon as Vader puts it on, well, he's gonna be under Sauron's control. The entire point of the ring is that it's designed to twist a person's lust for power into falling under the control of Sauron. And there's no one that lusts for power more than a Sith Lord. And Vader would have to be dang near a god in order to not fall under Sauron's control. Even Gandalf was scared of it. Gandalf is right below godhood. He helped to create the world, but the One Ring terrified him, and yet tempted him all the same. That's how powerful of a corruptor Sauron is. So, after Darth Vader temporarily defeats Sauron, well, from there, Sauron's ring would corrupt Vader, and then when Sauron reforms, which he will, Darth Vader would become nothing more than the most powerful Nazgul under Sauron's rule and control. It's not necessarily a straightforward victory, because nothing about power rankings in Lord of the Rings is straightforward or obvious. But it doesn't change how it would play out. This fight would end with Darth Vader under Sauron's control. And that's how it would go pretty much every time. It's not quite an obvious victory, but it's a victory nonetheless. Sauron wins. But what do y'all think? Sound off in the comments down below. I know you're gonna have thoughts and feelings on this one for sure. If you stuck around this long and made it to the end of the video, that's amazing. Thank you so much for watching and for supporting us. And if you want to go subscribe, well, go subscribe. You're going to see more videos like this one every single week. I'll see y'all then. I'll see y'all next time.